Overcoming fear. Overcoming fear, or fear just in general, is one of the, I would say, the biggest words when people talk about why they're not able to move forward or get what they want. And fear is actually one of the biggest drivers to how we make our decisions and what we're actually getting in our lives. When we feel good about our lives, we don't feel fearful. We feel faithful. We feel like things can go well. We feel like things are going to go great. So if we want to overcome fear, if you're having fearful, if you're asking yourself, what percentage of time are you fearful? And maybe that number's high. Or maybe what percentage of time is fear actually holding you back from doing the things that you really actually want to do? And so today, that's what we're going to talk about in this video is how to overcome fear. First, what we really have to do is we have to understand, what is fear? Fear is really just the brain's way of telling us, caution, hey, we've been down this road before. Don't do that. So it's really what fear is. Fear is just that feeling. It's a big caution flag telling us, don't move forward. It's really the exact opposite of when we feel excited and engaged. It's the exact opposite of when we feel like things can go well. It's a feeling that the more we make decisions based off of it, the less we get what we want. The more we make our decisions based on faith that things are going to go well or that things can go good for us, the more we can actually get what we want. So that's a good question for you guys. What percentage of the time are you making your decisions based on faith? And what percentage or hope? And what percentage of the time are you making your decisions based on fear? Hope and fear, they're exact opposites. And the more we're making our decisions based on hope, the more successful we're going to be. And the more we're making them based on fear, the less successful, and not even successful, but our relationships and the way things are going in our life, lifestyle, all those things can really come down to whether we're making our decisions on hope or whether we're making them on fear. One thing that I find is really interesting to me as I coach people and talk to a lot of people, the way that our brains process pain mentally versus the way we process pain physically is very similar. But yet we have to make totally different decisions. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. So for instance, let's say you put your hand on a hot stove. You burn your hand on a stove. Your brain goes, we are never touching a hot stove ever again. I mean, think about it. Every time you're around a hot stove, you're like, there's a hot stove over there. I mean, that fear, that don't touch this hot stove, the brain is so aware of. And it's very good for us to never touch a hot stove ever again. And that's a fact because it's physical pain. The interesting thing about people is they process mental pain the exact same way. They tried to go do something and failed. And the brain goes, wow, that was painful. We failed. That didn't feel good. Let's never do that again. And it's interesting to me that the way our brains process that pain is exactly the same in the attempt to get us to never do that again. The problem with that is if we let those mental pains stop us from moving forward, we can't have good relationships. We can't build businesses. We can't get over fears. We can't do what we want to do with our life. We can't have this end goal of having a perfect life. It's impossible because every time we start to move towards getting that perfect life, we're going to burn ourselves. And we're going to burn ourselves 100,000 times. And if we process it the same way, like burning our thumb or burning our hand on a stove and never do it again, we literally can never have what we want out of life. Another thing I want to talk about fear and understanding fears is the most common fears you're going to talk about out and about. People are talking about fear all the time. And the main fears that you hear a lot are fear of failure, fear of loss, and the fear of almost looking dumb or peers or what people are going to think. The three main fears that really people talk about, what really holds you back. One thing in our classes, in our studies that we found is there's actually a few more fears than that are more specific and actually hold you back a lot more than those three fears. And I'm going to go through those fears real quick, and I'm going to talk about how they affect each person. In our classes, we talk about personality types and really getting to know yourself and how you work and how you operate. And so kind of in those personality types, each different personality type has a main fear that holds them back way more than the fear of failure or the fear of loss or the fear of looking dumb. And that first fear, if you're an upbeat, kind of maybe more dominant type of person, your biggest fear is letting others down. Letting others down actually causes you to stop more projects than any other project. There's also the fear of losing control if you're more of a controller type personality type. The fear of losing control literally hits you 30 to 40 times a day. 30 to 40 times a day, you are feeling the fear of losing control or the fear of losing safety and control. This affects so many more of your decisions than the fear of failure, loss, or looking dumb, than all three of those combined and multiplied by 10. It's the main fear. If you're more of an analytical type person, the fear of making the wrong decision is driving your decision making 30, 40 times a day, at least, way more than the other three. And the more that you process, this is the wrong decision, the less likely you are to actually move forward in a relationship, in a job, in getting the ultimate life that you really want to have. That's the fear that really stops you from moving forward and getting what you want. Now, if you're more of a really kind-hearted, supporter type, then what you're going to find is your biggest fear is offending others. Offending others is really stopping you from getting what you want way more often than these three things. And so those are the things that we talk about. I really feel like overcoming fear is really more about understanding what fear actually is and the fears that are actually holding you back. Not fear of loss, fear of failure, these kind of things. They're there and they're not good, but it's not as strong as burning your hand on a stove. When you burn your hand on a stove, you are never doing that ever again. When you have the feeling of, if you're one of these personality types and you have your main fear, that's like putting your hand on a stove. You know what that feels like. You're never going to let anybody else down ever again. You're never going to lose control again. You're never going to lose security. You're never going to make the wrong decision ever again. You're always going to make sure that you don't offend people. These are much stronger fears that we talk about when we go into how to overcome fear. That was a quick video or a shortened version of what it takes to overcome fear. But as you start to overcome your fears, you're going to start to live the life that you want to live. You're going to start you're going to have awesome relationships. You're going to make more money in your business. You're going to do the things that ultimately you really want to do, but you just haven't been able to get past burning your hand on that stove. Because that's really what it's like if you really want to get what you want. This is really the way that we overcome our fear.